Hi and welcome to WarHQ. My name is Lucius, and on today's episode what we'll be doing is going over some pretty exciting news for the channel and for my company in general. Now guys might have noticed that WarHQ itself as a channel has been on a bit of a hiatus this year, and there's a very, very good reason for that. And that reason is that we've been developing our own game system. Now this game system is called Fjord Serpents, Vikings at War, and is currently in its pre-launch state on Kickstarter. Now, what we're aiming to do here is I'm going to leave a link up here. If any of you guys are interested in this at all, I encourage you to please go there and to sign up for notifications upon the Kickstarter site, because this will, help us and it'll give us a bit of a metric of who is interested in actually supporting this project. And it's due to launch roughly around the beginning of December at the moment. As I said, at the moment, we're just doing this pre-advertisement phase. I'm getting together all the last little bits and pieces. And today I'm just going to show you a couple of little things about what we've been doing and just to gauge your interest and see what you think. Now, what is this Kickstarter, or you hear about this Fjord Serpents, Vikings at War? Now, basically, what I've been doing for these last couple of years is I've been developing this system. Now, this is based entirely off my own knowledge of historical events. A lot of you might not know, but I have been somewhat of an amateur historian and a living historian for well over 2 decades now, probably about 22 years. And a lot of this knowledge from this game I'm garnering from that. And a lot of you might not also know as well that back in the early 2000s, I used to have a company called Pendlespear Gaming and Comics. And what we did is we released a series of comics called Judica, which was released on an international scale, and also a miniature board game called Splattersphere Gladiatorial Combat, with its own miniature range, which was also released around 2003 or 4, I think it was. Totally different time than now, but what we've done is my passion for gaming and my passion for history, I've put into this game, Fjord Serpents. Now, what you can expect from this game is it's on a scale of 10 millimeters, and you basically take on the role of a Viking Jarl, and you assemble your fleet and your warband, all of your crew, and you go and engage war on the fjords of Scandinavia against other Vikings. Basically, the first box set is basically the Norwegians and the Danes, and you can pick a side there, and they all have their own abilities and special things about them. And basically just, wage war against each other. Like, you can do it in a campaign arc, so like you can do it as sort of a more narrative play, or you can do it as a very competitive thing, so like a very balanced match play sort of games as well. And there's also a solo play option, which sort of teaches you how to play in the rulebook itself. So these are some of the options you have available to you. So the Kickstarter itself, and what we're actually trying to fund, is a complete standalone box set for this game, Fjord Serpents. So what you'll be getting within that box set is 4 longships, and a whole bunch of crew, like something like 300 and something individual crew models, but they are based on either groups of 8, 6, or 1, depending on the crew type that they are. So where we're going with that is we have like a levy troop or a leadang, which is sort of a later period sort of expression, but these could be called bondsmen, freemen, whatever you want to call carls. All of these things are tied into the term leadang with us, because it's sort of like a naval conscript of troops, and they provided service for jarls and kings in times of need and in times of raid or war. That's pretty much going in line with what we're trying to aim for here with the game. You got all your usual stuff, like your levy troops come with like spearmen as your primary troop type, as it was, and you also have archers and javelineers. Javelineers also sort of combine that aspect of stone throwing and stuff, because a lot of people don't realize naval combat, they did use a lot of stones and javelins and just anything they could throw at the enemy to try and damage the ship or the enemy themselves. The ships themselves, there's 2 types that we've got in this box set, and they are the Karvi longship and the Snekjar longship. Now, this is a small and medium, and I'll be showing you some examples of this as we talk right now. But these have been beautifully sculpted by a gentleman called Marco Saisi, and he's from Italy. And he's been collaborating with me on this for quite some time now. And we've got some pretty beautiful prototypes that we're being established. And I'll show you some teasers until we get the actual launch of the Kickstarter. But the game also includes like a fully illustrated rulebook as well and instruction manual. Like, so it's not just like your standard board game, sort of like loose leaf sort of thing, or just a few staple bound pages. This is a proper perfect bound book, full color artwork. I've got some artists working with me overseas at the moment. One from Georgia, some artists from Thailand, and a few other places as well. So it's quite a multinational project, which is quite interesting. Thank you to the revolution of the internet, because the first game that I designed was intense. So it was like we didn't have the internet. Really, we had dial up, and I remember the art that I was getting for the internet had to be sent via mail from like America and Canada and places I was getting it at the time, and it was a nightmare to produce. It's probably why it didn't get the reach that it probably could. But I feel like with today's technology and the tools that we have available to us, I can really make this project a success. We also have within the box set, we have all the tokens. We have like terrain or obstacles. So like all of the battles basically take place on Viking fjords or ocean, or sea inlets and stuff like that. So because it's sort of replicating that raid and counter raid and attacks on people that happen during this time, and sort of small to medium scale skirmishes. But the game is also scaled to a point with 10mm that you could go to a full large scale battle, and you could replicate some of the larger Viking naval engagements, which is really interesting. It's a very fast paced playing game. Now, we also have a weather dial, which comes with, which is like a spinner, old school spinner, which is pretty fun. There's plenty of dice, and all of the tokens you need to play, basically. So you could pick this box set up from the Kickstarter, and you could pretty much have everything you needed to start. Now, if you bought it as a game for two players, then you're going to have a Snekker and a Carvey ship each, and then you're going to have enough crew to have whatever variants that you can have of those, including all the elite upgrades and the leaders and stuff like that. Or if you were looking to play larger battles, that you bought it for yourself, you could really use it to have like a much larger engagement. And if, say, you had a friend that bought, we have a deal on when the Kickstarter comes out. I won't go into it too much now, but that deal will allow you to buy two sets. So for one for you and a friend at a discounted rate. So if you were looking to get into it with someone, you'd be able to do that. But yeah, that is what the box set includes. Now, with the gameplay itself, I put a lot of effort into this to make it feel fast-paced and action-packed, like it should be, like a saga. If you're into the sagas, like the Heimskringla, a lot of the other ones, you'll know that it's exciting. It's dynamic warfare, and it's told in a way that is quite heroic. And I'm trying to capture that within the game system itself. And the way I've done it really is the way that the turns are structured, I think, is a big thing. Like, you have two movement phases for your ships per turn, and you also have one crew phase which comes after that. And this makes it very interesting because there's a lot of tactical maneuver. It's sort of like almost two games within one, because the Vikings, as far as naval warfare goes in the Vikings, they didn't sort of like ram each other and like say like the Romans and the Carthaginians and stuff in ancient warfare, or even later than that in the medieval warfare. They didn't really have rams. They didn't really have artillery or guns or anything like that. It was all still sort of fought in a way which is more similar to land battles, but sort of obviously altered to be able to be ship to ship. Because Viking ships were very low draft ships. They only really had like a meter of clearance, and not you bring them up beside each other, you can just sort of step over onto the enemy ship. So these small obstacles, were used to fight and to build platforms of ships that could fight and help each other. So a lot of these elements have really gone into the game, but we've made it a very tactical maneuver game between ships, and you've got obstacles and things that can happen, and wind directions and drifting and all these things. There's a lot of things you've got to think about, but it's very fast paced. And the two movement phases that you have within the game really push that action, because what you can do each turn is you roll off for initiative between your players, which is fairly standard in war games, but it's an advantage for both players. So whoever wins that roll gets to choose either to move their ships first or to fight first in the crew phase. So this is a very big decision, and particularly as the game goes forward, because you want to be, if you're in a bad position with ships, you might want to go for a ship initiative phase, because then you can try and get rid of grapples and stuff that are on your ships and escape from the enemy if they're really tying you down and beating the crap out of you. But if you're in a situation where it's a very crucial fighting, you might want to put that effort and steal the initiative with ships, but your opponent's always going to get the opposite initiative. So, and if you have the ship phase initiative, you're going to be moving twice in a row. Like at the beginning of each turn, you'll be moving first, is what I should say. So that makes it quite interesting. And then the crew phase itself, like every single crew stand, and we call them a crew stand, is because they represent between 6 and 8 troops per stand, and they don't act individually; they just act as a stand. And I've grouped those in weapon types to make it more tactically sort of viable and interesting as well. So like for some of your elite troops, you'll have like your herdmen, which are your hearth guard basically, so your Jarl's personal bodyguard and that, and they can have like two-handed axes, or they can have sword and shield, which makes it cool. And you also have your more exotic, I guess you'd say, troop types, like your Ulfundar, which is like your wolf berserkers, and you can also have your traditional berserkers, which are your bear shirts, your bear warriors. So those have been incorporated into the game. There's lots of historical evidence on these particular warriors. We don't know exactly how they'll use. There is a lot of description of them fighting, a lot of the description of the sort of supernatural abilities, I guess, that they were said to have. But what we've done is we've tried to find a middle ground between history and myth, and we've tried to sort of give them unique abilities that sort of replicate that and to make them exciting within the game. So I hope you like those additions as well. So each of the crew on each ship gets to do one action per turn if they're available to them. And if they're not actually engaged with the enemy or within archery range or something, then they don't do anything that turn. But once it comes down to ship sort of stuff and combating, and ships are grappling and fighting, then each crew gets to perform an action. Now these are very varied. Like you can, a popular thing, like a lot of your leading troops have like a more of a shield wall sort of focus, and they can be used to brace some of your other people that you're thinking about assaulting the enemy ship with. And each ship can only assault once, which makes it very interesting too, which means it's more of a tactical simulation of trying to get into the best advantage and best position before you assault the enemy, or you get assaulted, you know what I mean? And this can be done in a variety of ways. You can assist people with archery and shooting. You can grapple the enemy ship more so they can't get away. You can remove grapples. You can, there's a whole bunch of different things. I won't give them all away right here. So it's very interesting. It's sort of a tit for tat kind of game when it comes down to it. And everything's alternating actions as well, which makes it interesting and a little bit more tactically viable as well. So the purpose of today was really just to give you guys just a little bit of a sub announcement, like just to like we're doing this on the channel. This isn't the primary channel for Fjord Serpents, but I mean, obviously I'll be putting Fjord Serpents content on here. It will have its own YouTube channel as well, which I'll link eventually once we get it started and going. But expect to see over this next month or so quite a few movies, but I will be going back to my general content as well. So for those that aren't interested, don't be discouraged. I'll still be playing my Epic Armageddon, my Blood Bowl, all these awesome games that I like to play, and bringing them to you as battle raps and strategic breakdowns and etc. But for now, thank you so much for watching this. As I said, just a very casual update on what we're doing with the channel and with the game Fjord Serpents itself. Please go to the Kickstarter link and be notified of launches. So set yourself up to be notified of launches. I'll also link the website, which has a little bit of information at the moment as well, which is just www.fjordserpents.com. But for now, my name is Lucius. You're you. Thank you very much, and we'll talk to you soon.